Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Sorry for being a day late and also being late. Later than I wanted to start today. It's just things are happening at work. I'm a day late. I hope I'm not $1 short. I'm gonna record the Private Citizen episode that I was meant to record yesterday, according to the plan. Gonna do that. Usual podcast recording ground rules apply. Alerts muted, etc. I won't react with chat as much, but you know all this if you've been here before. I'm gonna go straight ahead and record the episode now, and then I will jump off stream because then I will have to edit it, get it out, and go running. It's really cold outside, so I'm a bit afraid of that. Go running. And then cook some dinner. And please excuse my hair. I haven't done anything to it since I got out of bed. I didn't think it was worth showering, considering that I'll be running later, and then I'll have to shower afterwards anyway. So yeah, that's just the way it's gonna be. I hope that's okay. Let's just test everything here. Zoom in.
Ублюдок, мать твою! А ну иди сюда, говно собачье! Решил ко мне лезть? Ты засра...
That sounds good. Let's see. Zoom in.
Ублюдок, мать твою! А ну иди сюда, говно собачье!
Right, okay. That sounds like it's okay. That sounds like we can start the recording. So let's do that. Let's see if I can get the show on the road, and I'll talk to you after. Thanks for being here. You're listening to The Private Citizen, defending your right to have something to hide. This is episode 95 for Thursday, the 11th of November, 2021.
Fuck the EU.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. My name's Fab. Why was that? That was way too low, wasn't it? Why is that so low? Oh, because it's coming in over the same... Oh, right. I'm going to have to... Right. Okay, what we're going to do... So I don't know. I could probably fix this in a more technical way. But what we're going to do is... I'm going to play the music on full tilt. And wait, what? Let me try something. Actually, if I... play it... I only lower that, then I guess that lowers it on the recording, but not for us, right? But it'll lower that as well. Okay, no, this is not good. Right, I don't want to figure this out. I'm gonna play the intro music on. It won't sound as good for us on stream, but I guess that's okay. I'm gonna play it at normal. Oh no, I need this on a separate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is, so the idea is I'm gonna say, welcome to Private Citizens, episode 95 for Thursday, 11th of November 2021. And then it's gonna be
Fuck the EU.
a nice what the fuck?
Fuck the EU.
I don't want you to play any other. What the? Jesus.
Fuck the EU.
Yeah, I mean, yes, nice, okay.
Fuck the EU.
What are you doing? What did I just toggle? I don't want you to play any other files. All right. Yeah. So that's gonna be. I'm gonna cut that in post. So yeah. Sorry. It's gonna be worse. That's not gonna work on the recording. But I hope that's okay. You're seeing the behind the scenes here. This is something I've never done, so I don't have a workflow for it. Anyway, we're gonna fudge it. I'm gonna fix it in post. Anyway, fuck it. Let's do it live. First, we're gonna play this so I can cut it in later.
Fuck the EU.
All right. Okay. So we need that. I mean, I could also just throw in the. Oh god, I lowered it, didn't I? Oh, for fuck's sake, Fab. You're an idiot today. All right.
Fuck the EU.
All right. That's all we need. And now we just record the intro as usual. And then we're good to go. And I'll fix it in post. Let's do it live. You're listening to The Private Citizen, defending your right to have something to hide. This is episode 95 for Thursday, the 11th of November, 2021. Fuck the EU. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Fab, coming to you live from Düsseldorf in Germany. I'm your host. I was gonna say for tonight, but I'm your host for this whole show and for this episode. And yeah, first off, I'm gonna have to say I'm sorry that I didn't get the episode out yesterday on Wednesday as I usually do, and that's the plan. But I am, I'm generally always very busy, but in November I'm trying to do. Oh, sorry for hitting the microphone there. I'm also shaky. Too much coffee or not enough? I don't know. In November, I'm taking part in NaNoWriMo. So you're trying to write a novel in a month, like 50,000 words in a month. I'm writing my novel Grim Deep. I'm continuing that. And so it's just more time. And yesterday I just had a lot of other stuff to do. And then, I was also, by the time I got to when I technically could have recorded the podcast, but I was so frazzled, like it wasn't really, it wasn't advisable. So I thought I'll push it off to, Thursday, and you'll survive that. And I guess, I hope you have. Hope you're all right. Anyway, so this is just the episode I wanted to do yesterday, just a day late. I'm sorry for that. What is this episode going to be about? I'm going to talk about a new regulation in the EU that you might not have heard about unless you're into injecting ink under your skin, i.e. tattooing. It's obviously a topic that is close to my heart. I have several tattoos. I have several color tattoos. I got one on my lower arm. I've got one on my shoulder. I like tattoos, but this isn't so much about the actual legislation, although it's a funny story, or depending on, it's infuriating, but it's an interesting story. But this episode's going to be more about generally, the EU and how it legislates sometimes, because we've talked about the EU a lot. Obviously, I'm in Europe and in the EU. I'm in Germany, and has a big influence on my life. But it also, I've talked to Mike about this several times when we had discussions. It's just generally, obviously, a very important geopolitical player. Even if you're in the US, the EU was basically founded to be competitive against the US in a global market. So, we basically, if you look at the world, you have the US, you have China, you have Russia, and the EU. Those are the 4 big players, I would say. And so, the EU influences, just like the decisions in the US influence us over here. Decisions over here influence the US. Not so much. I mean, this one isn't like an actual topic. This is about probably doesn't matter there too much. But as I said, I'm trying to put a focus on like the general way the EU legislates, which we've talked about on the show before, especially in connection with Brexit. And this is a situation where, if you're reading this, it's almost like it's Brexiteer propaganda, except it's not. It's actually it's actually some regulation that the EU seriously did itself, and it's not even like propaganda. So that's why I'm going to talk about that. I hope you like it. It's a little bit left field, but it's a topic close to my heart, and I think it's also important in the context of stuff that we talked about, and we will talk about in the future. I have another episode with Mike on the horizon where we're going to talk about some, kind of pivoting from, the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on all our lives and our civil rights and everything towards the next big thing, which was the last big thing, which is climate change and, the legislation that is going to come in and how that all plays together with the stuff from the pandemic. And so, see it in the greater context of that topic, this episode, where it's, it might not be privacy related, it might even not be that specifically. I mean, it certainly doesn't infringe any, like, it's in itself, it doesn't infringe any, like, civil rights, right? I wouldn't say there's, like, civil rights to have a certain tattoo ink. Although in if I made the rules, it probably would be, but I think it's not important enough for most people. But it's just take it as an example of, because I feel, and I'm going to explain that at the end of the actual topic, I'm going to try to explain how I feel like this shows how the EU regulates and mandates things, and how it often shows like what I feel is like a lack of respect for people's freedoms and, their personal rights, even though they're not, like, it's not a human right, to have a colorful tattoo. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to do today. If you're wondering why the episode is called Fuck the EU and what that soundbite was, that was U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, Victoria Nuland, under the Obama administration, when the whole thing was kicking off in Ukraine, Euromaidan and the Ukraine crisis. That was a taped phone call that is believed to have been phones had been bugged apparently by the Russians, and they leaked this phone call. And this is, Victoria Nuland basically voicing her opinion on the EU. I thought it fit this topic. I also really like that soundbite. Victoria Nuland, by the way, after some, if you're a diplomat and you're doing something like this, you'd think you get reprimanded or fired or whatever. She is now, I think she's undersecretary now. She's under Biden. So she's actually got promoted. Probably, I don't know. I didn't look this up, but she probably lay low during the Trump years and is now back in force. Anyway, I kind of like that soundbite. So that's where that came from. Anyway, let's get into the topic we want to talk about. Let's talk about needles, which I really don't generally like. So I'm not a fan of needles. You could say I'm afraid of needles myself. So with tattooing, I like the result, but I very much don't like the process. I can definitely not watch it when it's being done to me. So I have to look away. Like when I got my lower arm tattoo, it took several hours, and I just couldn't look at it. And it, I'm a wuss. It's like the pain was really bad, but I like the result. And actually, maybe before I get into the topic, maybe talking about this very quickly, I understand that there's probably a lot of people who listen to this who would never get tattooed, who don't think it's a good idea. So I strongly believe there's two kind of people in the world. There's those people who get tattooed and those who don't. Of course, sometimes you switch over from one camp to the other. Well, in one direction generally. But it's like, I feel like I'm a bit prejudiced when it comes to tattoos. When I see somebody who has a tattoo, like, you know how you meet somebody and like you shouldn't do this, but every human does this. This is how police work works. This is how everything works. This is how journalism works when you meet somebody. Anything, where you have to do with people. You see somebody and you kind of judge them a little bit. Like you look at what they're wearing and you kind of like, you try to fit them into like compartments in your brain, right? Immediately before they even said anything. I try to not have that influence me too much, of course. I think this happens very much subconsciously as well, and I try to reflect on that. And whenever I meet somebody, and of course when somebody says something or does something, it will override this initial characterization, so to speak. But I definitely have noticed that if I meet somebody who has tattoos, I have more respect for that person. I think like my prejudice will be that they're cooler, which doesn't mean I don't think people who don't have tattoos aren't cool. I think it's a lifestyle choice, right? It's like when I talked about religion on the show before. It's really it's up to you, right? I would never talk anybody into getting a tattoo, and I would never talk anybody get out of getting a tattoo. For example, I don't like piercings, right? That's because I don't like metal under my skin. But so I don't. I'm not a fan of piercings. I'm not a fan of looking at them actually. But like whatever. It's like your personal choice, right? I will not like. Maybe I'll subconsciously judge somebody, but I'll try to regulate that. My waking mind is trying to regulate that. So I think it's a very much a personal choice. I just think the people who tend to get tattoos tend to be the people who are, I think, this is probably prejudice, but I just want to, this full disclosure, right? We're doing this show. Usually I put everything in the show notes, private citizen or press, everything I use, all the sources. And I kind of want to, in the spirit of, we talked about this before, like gonzo journalism. Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. I'm like Italian. I'm like using my hands a lot, which you cannot see because this is a podcast. Well, if you're watching live and you look at the recording on YouTube later, then you can see it. But I'm sorry for that. Where was I? Right. For me, like, in the spirit of full disclosure, that's I want to give you that information so you can judge what I'm saying here, right? In the spirit of gonzo journalism, so to speak. So I personally think that people who tend to get tattoos are people who live a bit more in the moment. There are like people who don't worry about. They don't have that much, it depends. Lots of people get tattoos, very different tattoos for very different reasons. And, there are lots of people who get tattoos when they're younger and then later on they regret it, right? But I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking people who embrace the culture and who generally have more than one tattoo and they don't just have like the tramp stamp, and like with everything you can overdo it. Like, when somebody has like full neck and face tattoos, even I think like, power to you, but like I wouldn't want that. So I feel like these people are usually the people who don't worry so much about regrets, and they're more in the moment, right? People that do not get tattoos tend to be like, oh, I don't know what this will look like in 20 years, or like it will, for example, I have a tattoo. The first tattoo I ever got was Chinese characters of the word Ningjing, which means a serenity, which is the logo of the name and the logo of the starship in Firefly, Serenity. And people would be like, oh, like what if I don't like the TV show anymore, or what if they do a reboot and it's really stupid, and like why I would never get a tattoo like this, right? And to me, it's I embrace that. I embrace this tattoo as a a personal thing I did at a very at a very specific time in my life, and it means something very specific to me. And if they change the TV show or whatever, Josh, if Whedon turns out to be like a fucking, this is his name actually. Why is my brain hanging? I want to call him Josh Whedon. That's not his name, is it? Joss Whedon. Jesus, what the fuck? Sorry about that. Sorry, Josh. It doesn't matter if he turns out to be like a rapist. That doesn't matter. That's not me. That's not why Anyway, so I think there's a mental, and I'm explaining this because I think this will play into the story later. And I think I like those people who are like this, people who, who are not like, oh, what will this look like when I'm 80, right? I get confronted with that all the time. People look at my arm and they go like, oh, aren't you worried what this will look like when you're 80? And I'm going like, dude, when I'm 80, I look like shit. I look like I'm 80, right? Like, even if I have a blob because the whole tattoo just like melted, my arm will look like that anyway. I'll have wrinkles. Like, I'm luckily if I become 80 anyway, if I get to that point. But like, at that point, it's, that's the other thing. Like, tattoos grow with you, they change, and yes, they're not as nice in like 40 years, but like, it's part of your life. And I think it's actually, you look much cooler when you're 80 and you have lots of like faded, weird tattoos than if you don't. It'd be a lot more interesting. But I mean, I think this mental approach, it's kind of like, I feel like this is often why, like, people like bikers are also tattooed, because if you ride a motorbike, you have to be a little bit like that as well, because you're doing something dangerous. You are, and I've talked about this before when we talked about COVID and, the pandemic and SARS-CoV-2 and whatever, and being afraid of something like this, right? If I was afraid of something like this, I would be much more afraid about getting on my motorbike, because it's a very risky thing to do. And you have to embrace that. You have to embrace you're doing something and there might be negative consequences down the road. And that's like, if you get a tattoo, that's the same thing. Now, I think this will become important later. I'm gonna get back to that. Anyway, why am I talking about this whole thing? Because, there is a EU regulation that's been around since, I don't know, forever. Wait, I can actually look this up. I researched this all yesterday and it's from 2006. It's called REACH, Registration, Evaluation, Authorization, and Restriction of Chemicals. It's EU-wide regulation, and it regulates all kinds of chemicals, like toxic substances generally, things like battery acid and stuff. Like, there are rules for handling these and introducing them to the market and stuff like that. Now, they decided, I think, 2 years ago, whatever, to have some tattoo pigments, tattoo inks be included into this, or generally be included into this list, which mostly affects two tattoo pigments, which I'm going to talk about a bit later. And that has all created a lot of consequences. A lot of people didn't, like, this was very much under the radar, and a lot of people only learned about this like this year, or like a few months ago, when a number of, because this is going to take effect in January 2022, when lots of tattooists were like, wow, we can't fucking do our art anymore, this is really horrible. Generally, when they introduced this, the EU said the restriction covers, for example, chemicals that cause cancer or genetic mutations. It's kind of the same thing, right? If it causes a genetic mutation that doesn't cause cancer, like, why do you care? Right? If it causes a genetic mutation that does not have a phenotype, like, why do you care? But anyway, this goes through the whole process. This whole legislation is an example of something I actually despise. That happens a lot these days, not only within the EU, I think everywhere, but it's very prevalent in the EU government as well, or generally in government in Europe, in Germany, for example. But I also think in the US, we live in a time where everybody thinks they're very scientific. Politicians who have generally, most of them have no idea how science works. They didn't have scientific jobs. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but they're very few and far in between, But everybody, journalists, they're all like, oh, we're also scientific. But very few of these people actually know how science works. I've actually done any scientific work, which is not like not having done it isn't bad. Like if you then like educate yourself in that field, but they don't, right? And so everybody like basically talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. We're so scientific and this is all based on scientific evidence, and they even make commission studies, like we're going to talk about in a second here. The EU they commissioned a study, but the study is bullshit. And first of all, the study is generally bullshit, but like even then the study gives you, even the bullshit study gives you a certain result, and then they just like ignore that result, or they ignore any like scientific common sense that you would have, i.e. when you commission a study to ask if is something bad, and the study says, well, we don't know, probably not, and then you go, oh, we're going to regulate it anyway because it might still be bad. Like that, I fucking hate that. It's like double standards, hypocrisy. People, oh yeah, scientific study, and then you just, as the result of this study, your process makes a mockery of anything that is rational, evidence-based, scientific thinking. It's just, it drives me up the wall. Anyway, we're going to get to that a little bit later. Well, so they say the restrictions covers, for example, chemicals that cause cancer or genetic mutations, and chemicals that are toxic to reproduction, as well as skin sensitizers and irritants. The aim is not to ban tattooing, but to make the colors used in tattoos and permanent makeup safer, which is a laudable goal, right? If you do that correctly, it's a laudable goal. And I'm going to come back to that at the end. But what they're doing is shit. So basically what this affects two pigments, green 7 and blue 15:3, 15:3, I don't know, blue 15, green 7, they're generally called. And you think, okay, so it's just two colors, but basically colors are mixed from pigments, right? So this would result basically in only red, yellow, orange, and black inks still being available. I'll put a link in the show notes to like some tattoo website where they have this is the petition against this regulation, and they have a chart of a common tattoo ink manufacturer with all of the colors, and then they have, they redacted the chart to show like what would be left after this, because if you take blue and green out, you can't mix a certain spectrum, which is anything that's based on blue and green. So the only thing you have left is red, yellow, shades of red, obviously, black, some gray, and white. Which is, So basically, imagine you're an artist, and good tattooists are artists, and some government tells you, well, you will not be able to use 80% of the color spectrum anymore to paint because that is dangerous to people's health. This is basically what this is about. So that's what they're caused. Now, let's go into the reason of why they want to ban these two pigments. So this is actually from all these links in the show notes, Private Citizen, not Press. This is from a tattoo website that explains this problem. And they say, back in March 2015, the EU Commission asked the European Chemicals Agency to prepare a dossier for assessing the risks to human health to determine the chemicals obtained in mixtures used for tattooing and permanent makeup. ECHA, in collaboration with Italy, Denmark, and Norway, the best countries, the biggest countries with most of the scientists, prepared a dossier stating that the risks to human health from exposure to certain chemicals and tattooing are not adequately controlled. In addition, Blue 15 is already banned in some cosmetics, in particular in hair dyes. ECHA believes the substances prohibited for the skin should not get under the skin either. At the same time, Blue 15 is approved for all other fields of applications in cosmetics, in particular for cosmetics that come into contact with the mucous membrane of the eye. Apparently, it was the lack of information about the safety of both pigments that became the main reason for the ban on their use in tattoo inks. At the moment, there's no alternative pigments whose safety would be higher than of the current Blue 15 and Green 7 pigments. So basically, we're commissioning a study. The study says, well, there's already some stuff is already banned, and there might maybe be some risk, but basically we don't know what the risk is. We have no idea. And so the EU decides based on that, well, let's ban them. There's no alternative, let's ban them. Like without any consideration about the industry, the artists that use these colors, the people who, like a colorful ink under their skin. And it's like, if you think about it, it's crazy. So literally millions of people have been tattooed with these inks. I am one of these people. I have these inks under my skin right now, right? And there's, if you look around, there's many doctors and especially also, of course, tattooists that have gone on the record, and they're basically saying they've never observed any serious health issues after people getting tattooed. There are, of course, allergic reactions, right? People get allergic reactions when they get tattooed, which is, it's very minute number of people, but it happens. Can happen because of all kinds of reasons. And is not like special in any way, right? Let's say, let's go back to a recent topic. Let's go back to the SARS-CoV-2 vaccines. Those cause allergic reactions in a huge amount of people. I personally had those very allergic reactions to those vaccines. These are known as vaccine side effects. They're not, generally not bad. We're not talking like, allergic shock here. We're talking, we're just talking vomiting, skin rash, this kind of thing, right? Which I had from the vaccines, right? But which is okay. But the one thing I don't understand is how isn't that, how can those vaccines be regulated and be okay and be on the market, and now we're gonna ban tattoo inks where you don't have that? Maybe I actually don't know what the current number is for the side effects for the vaccines, but I think they're in the 5% range, maybe. And I would say people who got allergic reactions to tattooing are in the 0.05% range, maybe. Or, it's orders of magnitude smaller. And it's also just an allergic reaction. It doesn't, it goes away, just like with the vaccine, right? I was feeling bad for 2-3 days, and then I'm fine. And there's no long-term effects of that because it's an allergic reaction. I have fucking allergic erections. Oh, that's a Freudian slip. I don't think I ever had an allergic erection, but all right. That would actually be bad because as what I wanted to say is I get allergic reactions when I go out in summer. In 4 months of summer when I go outside, I feel horrible. My nose, hay fever. If I got an erection every time, that would actually be very, very strenuous. Probably not good for my cardiovascular system. But yeah, so, an allergic reaction itself is not that bad. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying these vaccines should not be on the market. I'm saying, if those are, what's the problem with the tattoo inks? There's been, let's call them rumors or fears that tattoo inks cause cancer. But there's no data for that. There's no good research for that. And believe me, I've looked, right? I've looked. I've actually looked this up years ago No, actually, yeah, this was a few years ago. So I have a tattoo from a tattoo artist who only works in black and white, which I'm okay. You know, I like collecting different kinds of tattoos, and she's extremely artistic, and I wanted to have one of her tattoos, and I like it really much. But like, she saw my other tattoos, and she was like, "So you are aware that like colorful tattoo inks cause cancer?" And I'm like, I'm not aware of this. I doubt it very much. And she was like, yeah. So I said, well, you know, my my wife's the biologist. I'm kind of interested in this kind of stuff. I'm going to look it up. And I went, actually, you know, not while I was getting tattooed, but later on, I actually wrote her again on, I think, Instagram, like a few weeks later. And I was like, I looked into this. There is absolutely no evidence for that. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It means there are no studies. I mean, cancer studies are hard, right? They're long-term studies. I am, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if tattooings cause cancer. You know, alcohol causes cancer, smoking causes cancer, light causes cancer, air can cause like. Everything fucking causes cancer. Of course, it's probably going to cause cancer. The question is, how bad is it? You know, and is it, shouldn't you not do it because how big is the risk? And I always, like, I object to people who go like, oh, you should do this, it causes cancer. Like, citation needed. How bad does it cause cancer? Is it worse than me going outside in Düsseldorf and breathing the air? Which is also a cancer risk because there's all kinds of shit in that air outside. And then people go, yeah, but like you have no choice there. But with tattooing, you have a choice. Yeah, of course. But if I don't know how high the risk is, you know, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to stop doing something on the general assumption that, you know, it might be bad if I don't know how bad it is. That is just not, like, it's not how my brain works. I'm trying to think these things through rationally. That is just not rational. Anyway, so I think her fear was based. I found some articles, which is actually interesting, that especially colorful tattoo inks, probably not so much the original black and blue inks, but a lot of the colorful inks, there are like your body breaks them down quicker than the black one. So that's also why they fade quicker, and they end up in your what are they called? I can't remember the. This is when I talk off the cuff. Your glands, oh god, now I have to look this up. What am I looking for? I don't even know. Lymph nodes. They end up in your lymph nodes. You know, so they had people where they extracted lymph nodes from for, you know, a medical reason. They had colorful tattoos, and you could actually see the color in the lymph nodes, which in itself isn't surprising, right? It's in your body breaks it down. It's anything that you put into your body is going to end up in your lymph nodes. That's what they're for, and some of it's probably going to stay there. That doesn't mean it's going to cause cancer. I mean, it can, but like the point here being, we have no data on that. So, and obviously, I mean, I'm saying in the show notes, nobody has died of tattooing. That is, of course, not true. People have died because they were tattooed, but generally due to underlying health problems, right? And mostly because you're very far, you're sticking a needle under your skin very, very fast, you know, and there's issues if you have blood clotting issues, and you can get a heart attack. Okay, you know, people get strokes. It causes stress. Yeah, of course people are going to die. What I mean by that is, you know, nobody has died and then the medical examiner cut them open and went, oh, they got cancer and it's because of tattoo ink. Because you can't fucking prove that. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean this doesn't cause cancer and people don't die of that cancer at some point. But we don't know. We can't prove that. We don't have any studies. It's not, you can't just cut somebody. It's like when we talked about SARS-CoV-2, right? Somebody's dead. You can do a PCR test and you can say, oh, they had SARS-CoV-2. That doesn't prove they died from the virus. They might have been positive and got run over by a car. Right? So this stuff is hard. And apparently it's too hard for politicians in Brussels. So if you look at the EU's own study, which I linked in the show notes, which was apparently the basis for this, I'm not going to quote from that because it's an asinine, stupid fucking study. It concludes the same thing. It concludes there's no reliable data. Now, a thing I am going to quote, because it's a much better study. Well, this is not really a study, it's more of a report. But when the EU said they're going to legislate this, the German government, or some politicians, I think, the German EU politicians, went to the German Federal Institute of Risk Assessment, Bundesinstitut für Risikobewertung, or BFR, and asked them to compile a report. And they compiled a report which basically concludes the following. The BFR concludes that the currently available data for both pigments indicate only a comparatively low level of toxicity. However, since the available data on harmful properties of both pigments are incomplete, the BFR is currently unable to provide a reliable risk assessment of these pigments when used in tattoo inks. In particular, no assessment can be provided for the potential health risks involved in injecting these substances into deeper layers of the skin. Intradermal application. The BFR recommends supplementing the available data set for both pigments. And now comes the kicker. As currently available data indicate only a comparative low level of toxicity, however, the BFR does not see an acute need for further action at this time. In the view of the BFR, further work in this area should take into account that the pigments blue 15.3 and green 7 might be substituted by less well-investigated substances. So they even put another banger there at the end where they go, hey, if you legislate this and these pigments go away, it's likely that there are going to be other alternatives on the market that are even worse. Aside from the fact that we don't even know that they're bad and you shouldn't take any actions. So what they're actually saying is the reasonable thing. So if you're the EU, you are... fuck the EU. If you're the EU and you are... you put... Well, let's... Don't I have this here somewhere? Might as well play the original because I like it so much.
Fuck the EU.
Yeah, fuck the EU. If you're the EU and you commission a study and you get that result, right? What you're supposed to do, if you're a reasonable and scientific-minded person, right? If you believe in facts and in the scientific process, then you go, oh well, this doesn't conclude anything. What we need now is more science. We need more studies. We need people looking into this. We're not going to legislate anything, put a hold on that, and get some money and research this thing, which I would be all for. I mean, if it turns out this stuff is dangerous to my health, I'm not going to put it under my skin. I mean, I can't change that. I already did it, but I won't be doing it. But I need fucking results, right? And that's what you would think you do in this situation. And I mean, there are really bad studies on this. So there's basically a study, which I also link in the show notes, Private Citizen Press, called Analytical Survey of Tattoo Inks, a Chemical and Legal Perspective with Focus on Sensitizing Substances by some guys. It was published by Wiley in Contact Dermatitis, Volume 85, Issue 3, which is horrible. Because it's not horrible. It's like very straightforward, but like it's often cited as, look, these things are harmful, but they're not actually looking at that. What this study does is it looks at inks, available tattoo inks, and then looks at substances that are in there that are probably not good for you. But it has no conclusion on any, like it doesn't actually have medical data on any health issues. They're just saying, look, this has, I don't know, we looked into this as this toxic material in it. We know this material is toxic, and it's presumably not good to put that on your skin. But the study is basically about what substances are in these inks, not what the effects are, right? And they do some really crazy shit. So they did a survey of tattoo inks, including ordering some of Wish.com, right? How the fuck does it surprise anybody that if you order tattoo inks from Wish.com, of all places, there's weird shit in there. You order anything from wish.com, it's gonna be gonna have crap in it. I wouldn't order coffee on wish.com. Speaking of coffee, cheers. I mean, what the fuck? Ooh, why? Why would you do something like this? No fucking tattooist is gonna buy his colors on wish.com. I mean, somebody probably does. And then they should not be in business. But I mean, seriously, what's that doing in your fucking study? Yeah. So I think, and I think this is a common sense statement I'm going to make now. I don't think anybody is seriously arguing, except maybe if you're a shady tattoo ink manufacturer, is arguing for more data, for regulating the substances that are in tattoo inks. That's okay. If you commission the study and the study says, hey, there's shit in there that probably does need to be in there, that's probably toxic. All right, let's regulate that, right? And let's do some more research and let's regulate that. But let's regulate it based on proper scientific data and sensibly. Right? You can't just, well, you can, which they're doing, which is dumb. You just take those colors away. I'm going to talk about that at the end, but it's going to cause some other issues. Well, what you need to do is you need to survey and then you need to work with the industry to make the product better as part of this regulation, and then you can ban it. When the industry had a chance to actually produce some colors that do the same thing, that are better, then you can start banning it. Right? So if you listen to this show, you may be a nerd or a geek or whatever. You're on the techie side like me, right? For years, I've written about consumer home routers. And they're pretty much all shit. Especially when you're in the US. Like if you're in Germany, you have one option. You can get a Fritzbox from AVM, which is relatively good. Not saying they're perfect, but I got one, for example, because it's the only proper one. But let's say you're in the US where you can't buy these things. All the routers you can buy are shit. They're all shit. All these companies, they're insecure, they don't have enough software updates, they have backdoors, hard-coded credentials, they have all these shit. The whole market is, everything on the market is basically shit. Now, you could go and say, I'm the government, I'm the EU, I'm going to legislate this, I'm going to outlaw all these home routers. And then people, from January 2022, without working with the industry, without solving anything. So at that moment, nobody would be able to buy a home router anymore. Nobody who doesn't already have one can be on the internet anymore. Well, tough luck. That's basically what they're doing. Except they're doing it in a very small niche situation where, all these guys that are legislating this, and a lot of people on TV and whatever, on talk shows, don't have tattoos. They don't give a fuck. They think people who are tattooed are getting a tattoo is basically the first step. Then you get addicted to drugs, and then you're homeless on the street. And it's like a causal, if you get a tattoo, you basically end up homeless on the street. That's what these people generally think. Which I know, because I have a tattoo. I often run around with my, if I'm in a business environment with professionals, I do this sometimes. I like doing this. It's kind of like when I had dreadlocks. I run social experiments, right? I'm in a suit, and I can have two modes, right? I have my sleeves normally, like everybody else. Generally, just have the sleeve, have the cuffs closed and everything, and you won't see any tattoos. They're all covered. And then sometimes I just unroll my sleeves, and you can see the tattoos on my lower arms. It's incredible how people react differently to you based on that. Which, I understand, because as I said in the beginning, I judge people based on tattoos, and other people do that as well. But it's just amazing. But this legislation doesn't make sense on any level. There are all these other substances that have proven for years, decades, proven negative health effects that are not legislated like this. Tobacco, alcohol, opiates, substances used in medical procedures. Do you know what they inject into your vein? Those radioactive fucking traces? What they use them? Is it for CTs? Is it CTs or CAT scan? This fucking radioactive traces you get injected with when you they want to look at, I don't know, the blood flow in your brain or whatever. Read up on the side effects of that. And then everybody goes, yeah, but that's for a medical procedure. That's okay. No, it's like, no, what that is you have a choice, right? You go to the hospital and then go like, you're really sick. We need to look at the blood flow in your fucking brain. So please sign this paper that you're okay with getting this injected. And you're like, all right. And the same thing is, if I go to TUIS, I literally have to sign a paper. In Germany, it's funny because in Germany, if somebody was to tattoo me and I wasn't sign this paper, you have to sign a waiver. It would be criminal for them to do that. It would actually be, I think, Körperverletzung or schwere Körperverletzung, so like assault, like basically battery, legally speaking, right? They could go to jail for that. So I have to sign like a waiver. I also have to sign like a waiver for the, the medical information. They ask you, they do like an amnesia thing, like where they ask you like what's that actually called? Anamnese. Is that What's the English term for that? It sounds like amnesia, which is probably wrong. Okay, it's just medical history. Interesting. The German term for that is Anamnese. It's from Greek. Anyway, so, you have to sign like medical history or whatever. So I'm already signing that. Like, what's the difference? It's my fucking choice. It's like smoking, right? If I smoke, it says on the packet I can get cancer. Like, they could just put on that thing, like, if you get tattooed, like, you're likely to, your arm's gonna fall off and get cancer. And I can decide to do it, and I'll still will do it. And also, there's stuff that is actively regulated by the EU that has, that's actually not regulated by the EU or not regulated enough, that has proven worth health effects, right? I don't know, but substances is not my actual area of expertise, but I can tell you from my personal area of expertise, which is IT security, that, for example, medical devices, pacemakers, IEDs, so implanted, what's the E stand for? What the fuck is wrong with my brain today? I haven't slept enough. Is it? No, it's not. Improvised explosive device. Implanted defibrillator. Probably not ICD, implantable cardiovascular defibrillator. I wrote IED in the show notes. No wonder. Okay, let me just fix that. Yeah, if you get an IED implanted, that's definitely not good for your health. So ICDs, implantable cardiac defibrillator. So those are the things that, people usually call them pacemakers. But a pacemaker is always on, right? So if you have a pacemaker, your heart won't beat normally without the pacemaker going beat, 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 basically, in layman's terms. So it's always on. An ICD is just in there. If you have a heart condition where, for example, your heart could stop, it's like getting the pedals out, and shocking you. It's on your heart already, and it notices when your heart starts beating irregularly or stops beating, and then it shocks you. Like a ton of people have that, and it's colloquially called pacemaker by many people. But I know a lot of cardiologists, so I like to use proper terms anyway. But like those, if you look at those from a IT security standpoint, those are not like there's almost no regulation there. Just like basically, somebody, the company does some proprietary software, we're going to trust them. I actually once wrote a story about ICDs in Germany. It's an American company, an American device that was hackable, right? These are programmable. You can usually, I think modern ones are actually programmable by Bluetooth or even Wi-Fi, but the more classic ones, you'd have like this contact paddle that, you know, when the patient is there, you have to hold the pedal on their chest and then program them, because I mean, they're implanted in your heart. You don't want to cut the guy open to change his setting, right? But like the security of those things are horrible. And I actually had was writing about a certain device that had really bad, I think basically a backdoor in it, I think. So I was writing about this, and I tried to find out the regulation about this, and I talked to the German federal government institution that is responsible for certifying medical devices, and they were like, no, actually, this device is so it was an American company. Their main European headquarters was in the Netherlands, and they import them in the Netherlands, and then sell them in Germany. And so they were, it's not our problem. You know, it's Dutch regulations. It's not, we don't even care. Like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, the German government is not regulating that people get implanted with things that like have a backdoor in it, where you actually can, if you're close enough, you can fucking stop the device and eventually like kill people, or you can just have it shock people, which, you know, with an ICD, if your heart beats normally, you might know this from like first aid class, if you shock somebody with those fucking pedals with a defibrillator, when their heart's beating, you actually can stop their heart from beating and they will die. So like, this is serious bullshit. And it's like, there's no fucking EU-wide regulation apparently where this is like illegal, right? When you have to have security updates and you have to audit the software has to be audited. They're not fucking auditing this software. It's incredible. It's like that topic just cracks me up every time. It's just hilarious. But you know, the EU isn't regulating stuff like that because it's hard. That's hard. But like, let's mess with some people, with some tattooists. We can do that. Let's do that. I mean, it's incredible. I just don't understand this. How can I decide to smoke and give myself cancer, but I can't say, I'm just gonna get this tattoo ink and give myself cancer. Where with the smoking, I know I'm getting cancer. We have hard scientific data for that. Like, it makes this shit literally, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And I mean, this has lots of implications, of course. Like, I think what will happen is we have an industry that, you know, for better or for worse, tattooing used to be like a stigma, right? So it used to actually, you know, come from prisons and stuff. So it was like an underground culture for a long time. And I actually think it's very good that it came out of that, you know, and we now have actual artists and people who are proud of their work and their craftsmanship and their art and good equipment and, you know, health regulations that it needs to be sterilized and all that kind of stuff, which is good. So I don't get fucking hepatitis when I get a tattoo, right? But what you're doing now is you're driving these people underground. You will now get backyard fucking tattooists again. Where like, okay, I can't legally give you these inks because I can't buy the colored inks in the EU. So I have to like black market smuggle them in from the US or China or whatever. But then I get into trouble. So we're doing this, you know, clandestine again. I nearly fell over. I wanted to put my elbow on my desk, and I put it in front of my desk, and I nearly fell down. Today is apparently not my day. I've been up way too long writing my novel, I guess. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. Or there's gonna be like the BFR said. There's gonna be alternative inks that are probably even worse. I think what we have here is some politicians who don't give a fuck about tattoos and people with tattoos. They probably even don't like tattoos, and they don't, you know, at worst they're actively against them. At best they know jack shit about the industry and what it is even like to get a tattoo. And they're just regulating this because, you know, I don't know, they want this shit to go away or be banned, or they want to mess with people. I don't know. But it's also, I think, a very good example of like EU It's not my day. And I'm not gonna cut this out because I'm on the level here with you. You know, I want to. This is Gonzo journalism. It's real. I think it's it's a good example of why EU regulations are dumb sometimes, but it's also it's really dumb. I mean, it's you read this and you think, oh, this is some crazy Brexiteer propaganda. No, it's actually EU regulation that is shit, and that came out of a process that is shit, that is very unscientific and very illogical. And it's kind of like, at the 2006, I think, Lego, which wasn't the only company, but Lego, high profile. There's, those Lego trains we all had as a kid. You probably had them as well. You had this. It was a plastic, a train track, and there were metal bits in there. And basically, you connected the train tracks to a mains transformer. You had a transformer. You connect that to the mains, connect that to the train tracks, and then you had a little train that basically just was a motor, like a real train, right? Where the power actually comes from the track, or in the real train and the overhead lines, right? But like that. And Lego switched to having batteries in the trains. One reason was because the tracks were cheaper to produce, but it's like shit. It's like shit for the environment because the fucking batteries, and it's shit for people. They don't like that. And I grew up with I think it was the 9-volt system. Before that, they had the 12-volt system, and nobody ever, no kids ever died because of that, right? I remember as a kid, I would actually lick the train tracks because you get like a little jolt, right? Because it's like 9-volt. I mean, theoretically, yes, the transformer can be broken, and I think maybe you could theoretically get like 220 volts on the fucking tracks, but I think there were lots of fuses in there. I don't actually, I'm not an electrician, but I think they were very well protected. But I think the bigger risk would probably have been that you put your finger in the power socket when you plugged it into mains. But anyway, so there was some EU regulation, I think also in the US this time, but there was definitely some EU regulation. They had a new toy regulation stuff come out where including stricter rules for stuff connected to mains power. And basically they forced Lego to stop and other manufacturers who make, not like Märklin, who markets their stuff to grown-ups, right? But for kids, to stop this. And nobody knew why. Because kids die because, they put their hand in the fucking power socket, but that happens all the time, right? That's not due to these trains. These trains certainly weren't. I had those, everybody was playing with this. Nobody hurt themselves. And I remember, I think I started playing with this when I must have been under 8. And I mean, it was Lego, right? It was foolproof. It wasn't like you could really kill yourself with that. It's this stupid regulation like that, where basically there is no conceivable danger, but the EU goes, oh, we need to protect people. People are dumb. We need to protect them. It's like all the smoking, cutting open lungs on the fucking smoking packet. They've been doing this for decades, and you're like, it doesn't stop people from smoking. The people who smoke, they know that this can happen to them, and they still do it for whatever reason. How long do you have to run a social experiment like that to understand that it does not work? And I think in this, I remember, I haven't looked it up for the show, but I remember reading studies back in the day that there are actually good studies on why that doesn't work, in psychological explanation for this kind of stuff. And but still, they do it because you have to protect people, right? I feel like the EU often has this unhealthy impulse, and to some degree, it's the German government's fault, which has a big influence on the EU. I think this comes mostly from Germany. I think France and the UK, when they were still in the EU, were more on the other side of the fence. But there's this impulse to protect your citizens, even against their own will, right? So this might cause cancer. These people are willingly doing something, that is. It's not like makeup or like hair gel, where somebody might just go, oh, I'm just going to use that today, right? It's getting tattooed. Like, it hurts like hell. People think, and it's going to be there for your whole life. People think about this really well before they do that, right? And you could just inform them that, you know, maybe this might cause cancer, but you couldn't really do that because you don't have any. You can't even do that because you don't have any data on that. So you're just going, oh, no, but let's ban it. This is dumb, and I think, you know, to bring this back to a more general, like, society level, this impulse that these politicians have is bad on a lot of levels, and it gives the EU a bad name. And, you know, generally, I've talked with Mike about this, and I've talked about this on the show. I'm a fan of the EU as a concept. I think we need a single market in Europe. It is like, you can't doubt the positive impact the EU has had on our lives as people who live here. You know, like the decades of peace. It's one of the organizations that is directly responsible for that. You know, the positive changes in our lives. I'm not against, like, homogenization of, like, laws and stuff. I think that's a good idea. I think it's generally a good idea if we have good consumer protection. You know, if we have that in Germany, why not have it in France and in the Netherlands and everywhere? I think that's generally a good idea. But, like, it's stuff like this which heavily undermines it. And this is, like, the stuff where the Brexit or the anti-EU crowd, you just give them easy ammunition if you pull stupid stuff like that. On the other hand, I feel like people like me, who generally like the EU, have a very hard time to criticize the EU in the current climate when something like this happens. Because, I mean, this story is a good example. There was not a lot of mainstream press coverage of this. And I think it's less to do with journalists saying, or, you know, not that many people have tattoos, because actually quite a lot of people have tattoos these days, especially like in the younger demographic. So it doesn't interest the mainstream, you know, reader or viewer or whatever. I don't think that's the problem. I think this story, I wouldn't say it was suppressed, but I can hear the discussions basically that were had in newsrooms, because I've been in these. I know how this works. And then, you know, people, if you write about this, then it's just going to be another, like, people are going to use it, you know, to say bad things about the EU. And we all agreed here, you know, we're all friends of the EU, right? We all like the EU because we're enlightened fucking journalists. So let's not, you know, write about this. Who cares about it anyway? And I think it should be, that's the wrong approach, right? And then you criticize a decision like this, and people immediately, that's the other stuff we always talk about this on the show, immediately put you in the AFD, you know, EU, anti-EU, Brexiteer kind of pocket. No, I'm not. Like, I'm not against immigration, right? I'm just saying, guys in Brussels, you're making decisions that are bullshit and asinine and are dumb, and the process that leads to those decisions needs to be changed. If the EU, its government organizations can go like, I think we've identified a problem. Let's commission a study. Get a study. The study says, we don't know if that's a problem. And then they go like, we need to legislate that as if it was a problem. And if that can go through and become regulation and legislation and laws, basically, then the process is fucked and needs to be unfucked. We need to, whatever it is. I don't know if it's like the way the different EU, like the parts of the EU are structured, the different, you know, government centers of power, how it all works. Like, I don't know if that's the problem. Maybe there's just not enough reporting on this kind of stuff. Maybe there's not enough checks and balances, or like a way for the public to actually go, hey, this is bullshit, stop with this stuff. Something in this whole process is fucked, and we need to analyze what it is, and we need to fix it, I think. And I think it needs to be a valid. Yeah, you need to be able to criticize the EU, right? You need to be able to go like, the EU generally is a good thing. I'm generally a fan of the EU. Many things it has done, but some things are just dumb and shouldn't be. And you really don't need like a made up example of like banana regulations when you have regulations like this. This is fucking banana legislation. Like, this is bullshit. If you read this, how this came across, or how this came to be, it's just like it's idiotic. It's just dumb. Like, it doesn't make any sense on any level. You're trying to protect people that don't want to be protected from something where you don't even know you need to protect them from. In a way, and then you like, not only are you doing that, you're also doing that in a way which is in reality probably cause the exact opposite, and is actually going to cause danger to the people you're actually trying to protect. Like, how can something like this happen and nobody, like, in whatever the EU Parliament or the any kind of council not stand up and say, look, have you looked at how this came to be? This is shit. We need to stop this. What are you guys doing? Yeah, so I think it goes, what I'm trying to say, it goes way beyond Tattoo Ink. And it's probably going on with, well, it is going on with lots of other topics all the time. And we need to fix it. I'm not saying any other, I'm not saying the way the US government does things is necessarily better. And all political systems have issues. But if something like this can happen, there's definitely something wrong. There's something completely wrong. I mean, there have been certain other regulations. For example, in the US, a good example is under Trump, how they just basically regulated vaping. That was as dumb. Where basically, I don't know, some shady manufacturer for vaping liquid and I mean THC, like, it wasn't normal vaping liquid. It was actually like weed infused vaping liquid, and I think they were putting cannabis extract in there, and for some reason to make that, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but I think to make that vaporize, they put like some vitamin in there. I don't know what it was, but basically if you inhale that, you get lung damage and you can actually die. And some people died, like, I don't know, 12 people died. And then they outlawed basically vaping, and now, like, obviously the tobacco companies took that as a huge, they probably, I don't know if they were behind it, but that's like the conspiracy theory, which is not unbelievable to me, knowing what the tobacco companies did in the past. But they basically went, hey, this is good. Now we can market our, like, pseudo vaping stuff, that IQOS kind of thing, where you're taking tobacco and you're like, you're not really you're atomizing that or something. You're not burning it, but basically using tobacco. And they had to get rid of vaping because, of course, vaping doesn't use tobacco, like actual vaping. There's the police coming to arrest me. No, they're going past. Oh, no, they're circling. Well, okay, let's see how long I can be critical of the EU here. No, just making fun, of course. Yeah, so, I mean, stuff like that. And then, like, the Trump government ran with it, even though it was, like, idiotic. You get like tens of millions of people vaping, like 12 people die, and then you're like, oh, vaping's dangerous. Well, if it really was dangerous, a lot more people would die. Also, it would, it was specifically traceable to a specific kind of vaping liquid. You could just outlawed some guys in the garage doing this shit not properly. And then the problem would have been solved. But yeah, so it's, the US, for example, there are problems like this as well. I'm just picking on my local big government, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, let's get out of the topic. We have a lot of feedback to get through, so let's do that. And as always, go to privatecitizen.press, which is, you will not only find the show notes and all the links there and all the materials, but also a contact address. Contact link in the very top, and then you can give me some feedback, which I always appreciate. And I had some very special feedback this week from Yevgeny Kuznetsov, who's been a producer of the show for a long time, who's given us invaluable feedback. He's from Moscow, and he's given us really good insights into, especially around the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, about how that was handled in Russia and into Russian culture in general. This is just a really cool guy, as I like to say, a gentleman and a scholar. And he wrote back, and I realized I hadn't heard from him in a long time. I was actually wondering about that. And he has a damn good reason why he didn't write in. Yevgeny says, finally caught up again. Can't resist commenting on the I'm not in the risk group idea mentioned in the feedback section. I used to think that too, yet have spent 3 weeks in ICU. So now I have some new respect for the Delta, or whatever Greek letter it is now, variant. The bugger doesn't seem to care if you're young and healthy. I wrote about it in my blog, partly as a warning for those who don't take the whole thing seriously. Anecdotal, I'm sure, but I wasn't the only person my age in that ICU. This is a very good story. Links in the show notes to Yevgeny's blog. It's written in English. It's a long text. It's very well written. I think it's very emotional, but you can tell that he is he is a trained psychologist. He's he works in a medical hospital, and that's why I always read his emails and often read them out on the show. You can also often tell that he has a scientific. Well, you can always tell that he has a scientific background. He's very, very reasonable and rational. And, the way he talks about things. And even though this text is very emotional because he's obviously, he nearly died. I mean, and this is not I always laugh about when people who, I don't know, everybody's a survivor these days, right? You're like a rape survivor, even though you weren't actually in danger of dying. Because I think presumably you could have killed yourself, or people are all kinds of depression survivors. Yevgeny's an actual survivor. He was in a coma, and he came very close to dying twice. He was on an ECMO, which what I know from the success rates of those, it's pretty much a coin toss. So he survived that, even though it nearly killed him. It's a very good text. Read it in his blog. I just wanted to, we talked to him about, you wrote in about SARS-CoV-2 as well. Oh, this is actually, it's a fire brigade. Looks like something is burning. I'm just looking out the window. There's a huge ladder truck. It's quite far away. Oh yeah, no, they're getting out. Okay, I'm gonna keep you updated. If I have to stop the show because the whole building. Well, it's not like our building. It's like the building across the road. It's a distance away. It's not right across the road. Otherwise, it would be much louder. If you can actually hear the fire engine. But I'll keep you updated. It's actually, I think that's where the kindergarten is. I hope the kids are okay. Anyway. It's well worth a read. I just wanted to object to something he said, and I've actually talked to him about this, and I think he agrees with me about the whole risk group, right? I don't think he wasn't in a risk group. I think we don't know what risk group he was. He obviously was in a risk group. I mean, he had something. He had a serious. He had actually had COVID-19, like seriously, life-threateningly, and there's obviously something that that he has that not everybody else has, right? He's my age. He's born in 1983. Otherwise, we'd all end up in the ICU when we get this virus, which we don't. So he's in some risk group. We just don't know in which one. Also, he was saying, people, as a warning, people who don't take this whole thing seriously. I hope he doesn't mean me, because I've been very, very. I'm skeptical, yes, about a lot of things, but I hope I never gave anybody the impression here that I don't take this whole illness seriously. I take it seriously. I'm just trying to take it logically as well, and judge the risk. That's why, I was compare it to riding a motorbike. I still think that risk is higher. I mean, I could Yevgeny's is right. I mean, I could have the whatever same factor he has, and if I get it, I actually die or end up in ICU for 3 weeks, which I don't want to. But since I don't know, that's not I can't really judge that risk, or I have to judge it how high is the risk to get run over on my motorbike by a car, and I still think that's significantly higher. That's not taking it not seriously. I hope people understand that. I just want to reiterate that. Also, he says I wasn't the only person my age in an ICU, and he talks about that. But I think that is actually, in some regards, a selection bias. Yes, there are many people our age, end of 30s in the ICUs. But that is also because if you're older, you most probably won't make it to that ICU, or you won't be there very long. Because if you read Yevgeny's thing and the stuff he went through, if he had been older and had serious cardiovascular issues or any serious comorbidities, he would have died. He would have not he as he himself says, he's healthy, young and healthy, relatively young. We're not that young anymore, Yevgeny, but that. The strain they put his body through and the effects that had, if you imagine he would have been seriously overweight, obese, or had a serious heart condition or whatever, or pre-existing lung condition, or I don't know, whatever, he would have died. He would have not made it. I'm glad he made it. I'm glad you're still able to write feedback, Yevgeny, because I appreciate it every time. So people, please go to that blog, read that story. It's very well written. It's really well written. It's very good text, and I don't say that lightly as a professional writer. Update from the fire situation across the road. They have now turned the lights off. Oh no, the lights are back on. Huh? But they're not extending the light. It doesn't look like. I don't see any smoke. Maybe they're just rescuing the cat, but then they wouldn't have the lights on, would they? I can't really. There's stuff in the way, so I can't see it completely. But it doesn't look that serious. It's only one car. Usually when something. Sorry, my dry throat. Still, see if I can squeeze some more coffee out of this French press. Usually when something really bad's happening, there's at least 3 cars at a time over here. Oh, now they turned the lights back off. It doesn't look serious. Maybe just a scare. Anyway, let's continue with what Yevgeny wrote here. As for the topic of episode 94 proper, so that was a previous episode where we talked about, so if you go to Private Citizen, I'm just doing that live, .press, episode 94, Lord of Dragons. We talked about Drachenlord, the German YouTuber, and his problems with so-called haters and his mental situation. And Yevgeny writes, I'm not that versed in German so as to do meaningful research of my own, but the first question I have after hearing the episode, was that guy assessed for mental health? I mean, you keep reiterating how his behavior and his reactions were illogical and obviously served his own detriment, how his actions look unreasonable and unthoughtful, how he cannot act outside of what his emotions drive him to. To me, that reeks of a mental condition. And being a psychiatrist and a psychiatry teacher, those are words I don't use lightly. Perhaps the guy needs help. Maybe he can even get it while he's in jail if he's lucky. I agree with you. I don't think he has. I don't have full information, but I don't think he has ever been assessed. He himself talks about that he went to psychoanalyst. I think this might be connected to his first conviction. And I think he says he only did 1 session and the guy was an idiot, so he never got back. But in his recent conviction in the court, there were actually... they read out some kind of medical report where he was basically classified as having, quote, below average intelligence. But I don't think he was ever seriously examined. And Yevgeny says maybe he can even get it while he's in jail if he's lucky. I actually, I've obviously never been in jail. This is not a topic that I know that much about. But from what I understand, German jails are really good compared to like a lot of other countries when it comes to actual like psychological evaluations and stuff. And I think if he has to go to jail, he will definitely end up being, at least being offered help, because I cannot see with his life how it's going outside in freedom. I cannot see him not having significant problems when he's in jail. German jails are not like American jails where they just lock you up. It's like, oh, it's more than one. Oh, a car just moved and now I can look across. There's 2 cars with leathers on there. So it's more. And they've turned the lights back on. Oh, what the heck's going on there? Probably just one of these smoke detectors going wild again. It seems to happen quite a lot. Still can't see any fire. Interesting. So I can't see him not having problems and not at least getting offered help and probably getting forced. I personally, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I feel like the guy has serious issues. That he could probably have been helped if he went to a psychoanalyst, and if they managed to convince him to stop doing YouTube, that would probably have solved his problem. Just getting out of that, like the cycle he built for himself, where he just basically, I've been thinking about this topic the whole week since I recorded that last episode, and I called it bullying, and I'm not sure it's bullying what's happening to him. It has, what his haters are doing to him are the same things people that bully other people are doing. And I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying I think it in any way can be defended. I'm just saying usually bullying, as somebody who's experienced as years of experience in relatively, I think, pretty bad bullying. Usually when you experience bullying, you're in a situation where you can't get out. Like I was in school, I couldn't get out of like that class where people were bullying me. If I had the opportunity, if anybody had given me the opportunity, I jumped at getting out of there and just getting into a new school or getting into a new class where maybe the situation was better, and that would have helped me. And I actually got that situation finally when I spent a year in Australia in school. And after that, I was okay. So it worked. It completely worked. After that, I went back to the same school with the same people, and like they couldn't do anything to me at all anymore. The fire brigade seems to be leaving. So I think we're all right. Nothing's burning down. Right? And his whole situation is characterized by him. He could get out of this situation in several ways. He could stop YouTube, for example. Now it would be hard, but a few years back, he could just stop YouTube. If that's the thing you love, it's a hard decision, but he could have done that. And I can remember I was getting bullied so bad, I would have done a lot of things that I really didn't want to do, but just to get out of that. So, if I could have moved somewhere and I didn't want to move, I liked the place I was, but I would have still done it. But, it wasn't up to me because, as a kid, you can't just move. But I feel like it's not a, it might be bullying, but it's not a traditional bullying situation, because what's happening here is he experiences something and then he actually causes more of it, and he knows he's causing it. And to make it even worse, in his case, his whole YouTube channel, if you watch it, and I've watched, dozens of hours of his videos now, he used to actually have content and talk about metal and, stuff in his life. And his whole content for years now is just the haters and what they're doing. And he basically just only does vlogs anymore, or like streams and plays video games, but he talks the whole time about the haters and what they're doing. That is his content. He made this bullying, if you want to call it that, into his content. And also that's why he can't stop it, because he makes money off that. He makes money of getting treated like that. And I think that's the problem. And that's, I think, the the cycle he has to break through. And I think the only way you can do that if you're that deep into is like with professional help, which he obviously didn't want. I mean, if he had the ability to get it, I think in Germany, I mean, the guy doesn't have any money, but in Germany, he could have gone to, social, the government basically, and say, look, he could have gone to like a health, like the social health system, and they actually pay for psychoanalysis if you can show that you are actually having significant issues, mental issues, with whatever's happening to you, and I think he could have easily shown that, and I think he would have gotten help for free, but I don't think he wants to. Anyway, continue with what Yevgeny's writing. Also, I am absolutely against any legal actions in response to the provocative words of his haters, as long as they're just words, yet I despise those people who knowingly triggered the guy out of his balance, whether for fun or out of boredom. He suffered great pain as a result of what they said and how they said it. That much is obvious. I'm not a fan of cancel culture, but in a healthy society, these actions, despite being totally legal, should be punished socially. People need compassion, not trolling, and the society needs to clearly mark such behavior as shameful and indecent, which is happening. I mean, the society is, press, everybody's saying the haters are at fault. I generally was actually working against that. I agree with you. I think I despise those people as well, but we can't do anything. Like as long as they're not doing anything illegal, I don't think if they're not doing anything illegal, they're not doing anything illegal, and we can't stop them as a society, and we shouldn't. As I said, I think it's two parts of a coin. I think these so-called haters are only part of the problem. They are not the whole problem. And some of those people are also not a problem. Some of those people are not hating and are not basically they're standing on the other side of the road on public property of his house, and he chooses to engage with them, to see that they're standing. They're not a threat to him. They don't shout at us. They're not doing anything. And he comes out and he starts the confrontation quite often. So in that case, he is actually the aggressor. And I don't think these people should be punished. I think the guy needs help. I think that's the problem. I agree with you that people need compassion, but it's also hard to have compassion for a guy like that. He's also like, the videos he does are seriously. I mean, I don't get triggered by videos. I'm like, whatever you want to do, but like, he says it was joking, but once on his Discord, and this was published, right? He talked to like his fans. He said the Holocaust was a nice thing, and then he did a video about it and said, "Oh, I was wrong. I didn't mean the Holocaust. I meant Hiroshima." So that's a nice thing. I don't know. When the attacks in Vienna were happening, he was like, "What the fuck do I give a fuck about this? Like, I have like terrorist attacks on my house every day. There are people dying all over the world. I don't care. I'm being bullied." Like, he says like really dumb things, and I can see that it's logical for some people to think, okay, this guy's saying stupid stuff on YouTube, and then you go in the comments and you tell him you're stupid, you should stop saying this, and he bans all of those people. And then he put his address in his fucking YouTube description, and then people think the logical thing is to go to his house and tell him in person, which, if they don't do anything illegal, I don't think itself is bad. So I have very little compassion for the guy. I have a lot of compassion for his fucking neighbors. I mean, they're not, and this is actually, I think, why the community bought his house, to get him the fuck out of there, because he is basically terrorizing the whole neighborhood. I mean, with the stuff he started. Of course, also the people coming there, they're all part of it. It's like all one thing. And I think we can't just go, hey, he's a poor guy, he's been triggered. These people are despicable. He is, to some degree, also despicable. The whole situation, that's why I think it's hard to talk about it, because I don't think you can separate that. I think that it's a lot of fault on both sides. Also, the haters are not all the same, right? Some of them actually throw stuff at his house and do illegal stuff, and they should go to jail. The police should be there, and they should be fucking arresting them, whatever they need to do, find them, but not those other people who are just on the other side of the street where they can be. I mean, now they actually, you're not even allowed to go down the street anymore, I think, which is another whole can of worms I don't want to open. But yeah, we're not gonna get into that. But it's a very, very, very complicated situation. Anyway, Yevgeny continues. These things differ between countries, of course, but as far as I know, the current consensus in mental health assessment, especially when talking justice or disability pensions, is that what matters is the effect of the condition the person may have on their functioning. I agree. I think that's what it is in German. I think in Germany generally so as far as I can understand the definition, as far as the medical definition, and we're not talking like I mean mental health, not like what it does to your body, but like the mental health definition of being alcoholic is you start being alcoholic if you can't function normally anymore. We're not talking, you might be for somebody who's a liver specialist, you might be an alcoholic way before that because your liver is fucked. But like, as a mental health disorder, like mental health disorders are characterized by it stops these people from functioning normally in their daily lives. Evgeny continues, quote, intelligence below average says very little per se. The question is, does his behavior that leads him to having issues with people being a burden on his community and eventually breaking the law result from his condition? Or does it have other reasons, i.e. being lazy, wanting to hurt someone, simply not caring, being a jerk generally? Could he have avoided the situation he ended up in if he didn't have the condition in question? Can some kind of treatment fix it so that his condition no longer has such a negative effect on his life? These questions are usually very hard to answer, but that's what psychiatry does, among other things. Thanks for this insight, by the way. It's fascinating. And it is mostly agreed that where a bad person, i.e. criminal, should be punished, the ill person whose antisocial activity results from the illness should be helped and treated. I completely agree with you. I don't think you can even separate that. I think it's both. I think he definitely has issues, and fixing those issues, i.e. for example, getting off YouTube or whatever fascination he has with like his ego, broadcasting it to the world. It's not only YouTube, it's like not the platform, right? But it's like that behavior. I think that could solve it, but still, I think he also is lazy and he's an asshole. I've watched a lot of his videos now. I think that is, at least in my mind, is clear. So it's a combination of the two. And I think, yes, I think he did some things that were illegal. I think it's okay that he's being convicted. And in Germany, like that is only like the first step, right? So he broke the law, and you get convicted for that. Now the decision afterwards comes: do you go to jail, or do you actually get psychological help, or do you get psychological help in jail? I'm not happy with the decision they made there. I think because I never think they saw him as somebody who's actually has mental health issues. That was never, the court never, they had no specialists there. They didn't examine him, whatever. I think they should have done that. I think he should get convicted because he broke the law. That's how, society the rule of law and how that works. But after that, there's the decision. I think he's a sick person and he needs help. I don't think he needs to be punished. I don't think that will work either. If punishing circumstances would stop this guy from doing what he's doing, he would not be doing it anymore, because he's been punished enough over the last 7 years by people who fucking destroyed his whole house and everything. If he was responsive to that kind of cause and effect, I think that we wouldn't be in this situation. It also opens, Evgeny continues, it also opens a whole other can of worms, rights and privacy. What if the person refuses to undergo treatment? What if they refuse to undergo treatment because they fail to understand they have a condition? What if the condition itself is what doesn't allow them to understand they have it? That last one is tough, but comes surprisingly often. When you break a leg, your leg is broken. When your brain malfunctions, it's the very same brain that is supposed to know you're okay, and this ability can be affected too. Right. Totally logical. What if the condition makes them even refuse the assessment in the first place? In some countries, the court can order a mandatory psychiatric evaluation for that very reason. You can do that in Germany, actually, although the bar is very high, I understand. In other countries, such practices are deemed fundamentally incompetent. I can't read. Fundamentally incompatible with free will and thus unacceptable. Again, I'm not saying the whole angle even applies in this case, but that's the first thing I would like to check for. I think you're completely spot on right, Evgeny. I think that's exactly the problem here. I think, he went in his own, from what he says, he went to a professional and the professional tried to help him and he went like, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to leave. I think whatever his problem is exactly that. He has a problem with seeing that there's a problem. Right? Otherwise, he would have, I think, for better or worse, any sane person, I don't want to say he's insane, right? But like any normal person, I don't know what normal is, but like any person who can reflect more on their situation, no matter how much they like to be on YouTube and in the public eye, would after like 7 years of what that guy went through, even like after 1 or 2 years, would have said, enough. It's not worth it. It is definitely not worth it. We need to change something here. But I think the self-reflection is, I don't know if there's a psychological disorder. There probably is. Where like that part of your brain, like your self-reflection is just broken when it comes to yourself. And you just can't do that. I think that's definitely the issue here. Anyway, Yevgeny, I'm glad that you're all right. Thanks for writing in. It's always very enlightening. I mean, it's of obvious worth to me to have a producer of the show who's an actual psychiatrist. I mean, just listen to how the guy like argues and writes. It's fascinating. It's really good. Thank you, Evgeny. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope you'll get back to just your pre-COVID-19 self. And if there's anything I can do, let me know. Anyway, if you also have feedback on what I've said on this episode, maybe even on what Evgeny said, please go to privatecitizen.press and let me know. I appreciate all kinds of feedback. You do not have to be a trained professional to do this kind of thing. Right, I'm just waffling because I'm trying to find a button on my Stream Deck here to play this bumper, and I'm fucking failing because apparently my brain's not up to scratch today. I hope this still was a good episode for you. Anyway, let's wrap this whole thing up. So if this show does some things that you like that are helpful to you, I would ask you to consider to give back a little bit. We operate under the so-called value for value model. Links in the show notes about what that is. There's also links to Patreon. You can become a patron and you can send one-off monetary donation via PayPal. producers@fab.industries, the email address for that. producers@fab.industries. Otherwise, you're also a producer if you help out by, giving feedback, writing in, sending us interesting blog posts like Evgeny. And now I'd like to thank everybody. I appreciate all of the people who have helped, who have given monetary support to bring you this episode. And we should all be thankful to them. And those people are Georges, Steve Hose, Butterbeans, Jonathan M. Heathy, Michael Mullen Jensen, Dave, Michael Small, 1I11G, Jaroslav Lichtblau, Jackie Plage, Philipp Klostermann, IKN, Vlad, Rodane the Insane, Bennett Piatra, Kai Sears, Tobias, Fadi Mansour, Joe Poser, Dirk Didi, Mode7, Sandman616, David Potter, Rizal, Mika, Avis, Martin, Mr. Ramish, Dave Umrish, Cam, Ricky M, Barry Williams, Jonathan, Captain Egghead, RJ Tracy, Rick Bragg, D, Robert Forster, Superuser, Astral C, and No Reply. And I also would like to thank everybody who subscribed to my Twitch channel, because, that's where I live broadcast the show. And those people also help out with the subscription, which is also money that helps keep the show running. So thanks to Mike the Dane, Jonathan MH_com, Sandman616, Butterbeans, JJ Guevara, Bacon the Pork, Mode 7 is unavailable, Indie Gamiacs, Al Terrestrius Jim, and Redeemer F. And I also have to thank Bytemark at bytemark.co.uk, a British cloud hosting company who provide the servers and the bandwidth for the audio files of this podcast. Without them, I couldn't do the show. So thanks to Bytemark. They are amazing. Link to them also in the show notes, of course. And that's it. Now I just have to mention the theme tune of this show. It's called Acoustic Roots by Raul Kabazali. Thanks for this great song. And speaking of songs, I'm going to play you out now. This week, the ending song is called Serenity Now, which I like because it's kind of, I like Serenity because of Firefly. But Serenity Now, I guess, is a reference to the Seinfeld episode, which is awesome. It's one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes. Serenity Now! Serenity Now! And that's a song by the Bloodwerk Band. Who is like a jazz project. Obviously, all of this music I use in the bumpers are from Epidemic Sound, licensed through Epidemic Sound, and I really like the Bloodwerk Band, and I've been getting into jazz lately a lot, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, see you next week. I hope to have the show be back on Wednesday. That's the plan. Until then, aim to misbehave and Serenity Now! Rightio. And that's it for the show for today. Shit, where do I stop this? There we go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me while I do this. I will now go running before it gets even darker. I mean, I have a light on my rig, but still, it's also getting colder. So I want to do this now, and then I'm going to have to get the show out and cook myself some dinner and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to hand you off now to Deadly Slop, who's playing Star Citizen, of all things. Playing, in air quotes. Well, I'm just jealous because he has a computer that it seems like he can actually run it. See how often he falls through spaceships. Anyway, let's head over to Deadly Slop. Thanks for watching. I'll be back at some point here with more NaNoWriMo streams. I don't know when yet, though. So anyway, see you soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.